my whole life, if you wanted to put my life in a capsule, you'd say everything that I've ever thought, everything I've ever been good at, people didn't really want to pay me for. And anything that I wasn't particularly interested in or good at, people were willing to throw the jobs at me.
There's a little bit of taste of what's coming up, and what we like to talk about is intellectual exercise. Love it. And Eric, for an example, I had to look up half these damn names that he got talking about with authors and everything. But before we get into all of that, I got a couple things I got to throw your way. This is one of two different types of formats that I have in the show. It's a long format. Got Eric on today, about 90 minutes, and we get in some awesome stuff. I'm very excited to bring you this one. Opposite weeks, it's 10, 15 minutes, or whatever's on my mind, and that's no notes, and I'm having a really good time with those. If you want to join me, I go live on Facebook and YouTube. Would love for you to subscribe to the old YouTube channel. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Everything you need to know about the show is on the old website, brawpodcast.com. Sporting the new logo, which I'm in love with. And I also got some new merch. Need you to check that out. Sign up for the newsletter. I just dropped one, so you missed out on that one. But if you want the next one, sign up on the website, brawpodcast.com. And I'm a one-man show here. Everything you see with the new logo, going to keep pushing that, is what I do. I don't get any help from anybody. I don't have a staff or anything like that. So I'm reaching out for y'all to give me a hand. Whatever platform you're listening to this on, audio or visual, sign up, subscribe, like, share, all that stuff that people always ask you to do. And of course, if you like what I got going on here, tell a friend or 7. And of course, I can't get any further without giving the two companies that keep this project motoring down the road, and that's High Speed Daddy Craig and his crew. Make awesome gear for active parenthood or just active lifestyles in general. Make sure you check him out and give him hell too, all right? And then you got Charmaine and the crew down in Arizona with Live Rishi. Rishi Rub is a staple in my gym bag. You got sore muscles and joints, and y'all know that I like to push myself physically in the gym, so that stuff I use a bunch. Link is in the website or in the show notes for both these. Give them hell for me when you get over there. All right, man, here we go. Eric coming right at you. Again, like I talked about in the beginning, intellectual exercise is amazing. I know the importance, we all know the importance of physical exercise. Eric here is a swimmer, as you'll hear, but our conversation around intellectual exercise challenged the shit out of me, which Eric, I much love for that. And his passion, you're going to hear around his profession. He just dropped a book, and the link is in the show notes, of course, and I'm about 30% the way through it, and I got to tell you, damn good time. And how he got to where he is and all the stories that go along with it, well, you know what? I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's get to it.
Well,
yeah, so, but dude, women run the world. Absolutely. I don't know why anybody would have any disagreement with that.
Well, we have a patriarchal kind of society that is bent on camouflaging, if you will. I mean, I'm making it seem like, older white guys control the world, but who
controls that dude's house?
Well, probably you're right, or tells them where he should be at what time. You're absolutely right. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that should give us some pause, give us a little calm, to realize that women with their practical good sense and they're basically pro. I think all women are kind of pro-life, not pro-life in the giving birth sense, but pro-life in the sense of let's keep things going. Let's keep life going as opposed to let's obliterate everything.
Like me, I just want to tear everything down. And here's my wife saying, the nurturing thing, right? I mean, they want to nurture and keep everything going. Like you said,
oxytocin, it's the love hormone, it's like, let's see how we can fix it. Let's see how we can draw, how we can smooth things over rather than rip them apart.
Yep. A perfect analogy just happened today. We get an Amazon box. What do? I just rip it wide open.
Uh-oh.
My wife's like, you can cut the tape and just open the box. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I could just do that.
You must have really wanted the contents of that box.
I just stick my fingers in and go and rip the thing off, and I don't even think nothing of it. But
you were just testing your strength, right? You do all that. Why pump iron if you can't rip boxes?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Oh, we talked about fitness the other day. We talked about something because I just started walking. We live on a lake, and it's just about 3 miles around.
Ooh, okay, that's nice. That's a nice
walk. And so I walk it every day. I've been doing it for a couple weeks now, and just to change things up. And my wife is, as we talked about before, she's an incredible athlete. She's a belly dancer. She sings in a chorus. She's super musically talented. Piano, ukulele, clarinet, sings. What else was there? Or something else. Anyway, when I met her, she was a competitive triathlete. So she takes care of herself. And the first couple times I did that walk, it kind of kicked my ass, right? I'm 275 pounds, dude.
Okay.
With a 36-inch waist. So
that's not bad.
Yeah. And
that's astonishing, actually.
Yeah, it does. And but like cardio is not the thing. So that's why I tried it. I do cardio, but not crazy. And my wife and I were talking the other day. She's like, "Oh, 3 miles, that's no big deal." And I go, "Can you pick up that refrigerator?" She's like, "No." I go, "To me, that's no big deal." So there you go. There's the difference.
There's an impact because you really should do the cardio. And I'm not saying she should lift refrigerators, but I mean, it would be a good thing because you don't, I mean, you must have been an athlete, right? You must have been a football player. That sounds like a football player body to me, or a wrestler. I mean, I can't. 275. How tall are you?
6 foot.
Okay, so you're stocky. You could play like nose tackle. That's like nose guard.
Well, I grew up on a farm, and I didn't play sports until I moved to Colorado, and then I played football, hockey. I was a martial artist for a decade, and then.
Do you know how to skate?
I didn't at the time.
Wow. So you learned how to skate.
Yeah. And then I was in private security for a long time. So that was quite interesting.
By private security, you mean being a bouncer, that type of thing? Or like, working at a hotel or at a...
Well, that's how I got involved with it. I was a front door guy at a nightclub, and then you get to be where you drive the truck up on, or the Yukon up to the airport, right up on the airstrip to the airplane, and you take somebody out of the airplane, you put them in, and you... Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about personal security.
Personal security.
Bodyguard.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
So that all came around, and I've always been a bigger guy, but back when gyms, you're old enough to, no offense, but you're old enough to remember this. Gyms were, you got to sign a 3-year contract instead of month to month. Remember that? Do you ever get involved in that?
1 year, but I know what you're talking about. They like to wrap you in.
Right? And I got involved with one. I just wanted to start working out. And the guy said, he goes, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I just want to be cut up, look good." I was young, I was in my early 20s. And he goes, "Well, you're a bigger guy." He goes, "Let's do this." And he said a bunch of stuff. For 6 months, you won't see anything. And then all of a sudden, you'll see it. And I was like, whatever. And I just followed it along, and I've been happy with it. I learned a lot from that guy. Still do stuff to this day. So, and then through my past with security and bouncing and doing all that, I was always involved with military guys. So I'd go to military bases and they'd show me stuff, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Fitness is your body. I mean, for a man, of course, a woman too, but for a man, for somebody not to see what your body is capable of doing that's a shame. You should push yourself and you should do things, but
Challenge yourself. It's like I've done
100%.
I just recently completed 500 straight mile swims. And every time, from the time I started doing 250 to 300, every milestone I would do like a video. And the last one I got out, I did a lap, after I'd done my mile swim, I did a whole lap. I got out of the pool and I said, you don't have to swim. You don't have to do any of this, but just do something, challenge yourself. And I think that's really what it comes down to, because I can't tell people, oh, become aquatic, love to swim. People are hydrophobes. They don't like to swim. They don't like water getting in their noses or in their eyes. And I can certainly understand that, because I probably was once a little bit like that too. But, speaking about weightlifting, I remember when back, I don't know, it was a long time ago, I got a set of weights from a place called Herman's We Are Sports. Now it's long gone, long gone. I carried these things. I schlepped them on the subway, got them all the way home. And then I made it my challenge to once a week pump iron, not heavy weights, like 60 pounds, but a lot of reps. Right. And what you just said about this guy telling you 6 months, you won't see it, but then you will see it. I would always focus on my upper body wall, because the muscles, Popeye. I think it's all because we saw Popeye the sailor with the big, eating a can of spinach, and then his muscles bulge.
Right.
And so I would do that, but I wouldn't focus on the midriff, the abs. And finally, went down to the gym with my wife, and this guy who's a neighbor was saying, he was doing these sit-ups, but wild, weird kind of sit-ups, like with the legs up in the air. And he says, you've got to do these. And I started doing them 3 times a week. And I've done them now for a year and a half. And I'm telling you, it is, I feel it, the tightness there, the fact that they're like, instead of just being something like there, like sort of like hanging there, it's tight. I see it's flat and it's tight. But most people, when they try to do something like that, they're just it's a little bit like when you're playing the guitar and your fingers bleed. It's like you're going through so much pain before you see anything that you just stop. And that's the problem, getting over that hurdle, getting over the impatience and the pain.
Yep.
So
I had a guest on, and he's over in Germany. At the time he was in Germany, but he got in a van. He got rid of his corporate job and was all over Europe climbing ice. So he was an ice climber.
Oh, okay.
And he has this thing. He calls it chasing the 8. And he says that 8% of the time you should be completely uncomfortable. Like when you're going to do something. So like working out, like I looked at it when we'll use working out for an example. Like him, it's a little easier because you're climbing a fucking ice wall that's 3 stories tall. Of course, now that you feel that your life is in danger, right?
Oh yeah, it's uncomfortable.
But like what you said, guitar, your fingers bleed, and then do you stop playing and then you don't pick it up? No, that's the 8%. Now you're completely uncomfortable, and you got, like you said, you got to get over that little hump, and that's where all the good stuff is.
That's right. But it's hard to get there, and it doesn't feel like 8. It feels more like sometimes 38 or 48. Because let's face it, the first, I would say, month of doing sit-ups, of doing, let's say, 50, 3 sets of 10 or 20, whatever it is, you're feeling, while you're doing it, you're sweating. I mean, you're feeling great discomfort, and you're feeling great. The lactic acid is building up real fast, and you're feeling.
Hell yeah.
But then you realize, that those first reps are no problem. You're able to increase and go faster and faster, and it's no problem at all. And then it becomes kind of like you look forward to it. It becomes like a treat because you're seeing the results, and you're also enjoying. You're kind of enjoying the challenge. You're enjoying what it's making you feel. Before that feeling of that tightness, that pressure you were putting on yourself wasn't enjoyable at all. But it becomes enjoyable. You identify it as enjoyable.
Well, I do for sure. No, it's not. I have to go to the gym. I'm able to go to the gym.
Exactly,
right?
And that's definitely how I feel.
Yeah. And that being said, in 2016, I was paralyzed.
What caused that?
From the waist down.
How did that happen?
A lifetime of abuse to my body. And then my wife and I were, you ever hear of Habitat for Humanity?
I have heard of that.
Okay. So my wife and I were doing that for years. And so you go to a job site, and in the morning, the GC, general contractor, goes, list all the stuff that needs to be done for the day. And then he's like, who can do this? Who can do that? And then, who has this ability? And that fucking guy goes, who can put down a tongue and groove kitchen floor? And I just went, oh, I can do that, but that's a lot of work. I was like, I had little alligator arms, and this old dude next to me puts up his arm. So him and I start putting this floor down. And if you ever do something like that, it's crazy work. You're down on your hands and knees, and you're banging these boards together that have a tongue and groove, and you got to line them up, and you're up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I stood up, and I felt and I heard a pop in my back.
Oh my God.
I just went, fuck. Oh, okay. All right. And
pop the disc.
Yeah. And I go, well, I got to finish the day. So we finished the day. I drive home with my wife. She's my girlfriend at the time, but I drive home with my wife, and I said, I just got to take some Tylenol, put some heat on it, stay off my back, the whole thing. I just got to stay off my back. Dude, I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning, couldn't feel from my waist down.
Oh.
Yep.
Was there any tingling or pain at all down there? Nothing? Just nothing.
Yeah, not at that moment, right? So when I woke up, I was like, holy shit. So these two paramedics show up. God bless them. I love them. 5'4", two women. And here I am, 275 pounds. And they can't get the gurney into my bedroom because just the way the apartment is and that kind of thing. So I had to roll off the bed, and one of each of them got under my arms, and they picked me up, and my toes were dragging on the floor. And I got to the gurney, and they held the gurney while I climbed on the gurney because I was way too much. They couldn't pick me up, but they were amazing.
Basically had to pull yourself with your arms.
Yeah. And then it started, there was tingling. And then, dude, Eric, the pain hit. Oh, I can't even describe it. I'm not even going to try to describe it. But so we get to the hospital, and I go from the ambulance gurney to the hospital gurney. I find all this out later because I'm not. So normally they put a board between each gurneys and they slide you over.
Yeah. In
my case, they purposely leave the board out, bang my back, and I scream like a 4-year-old. I mean, scream. And I remember seeing this nurse above me, and she turns her head and she's like, well, at least he's not faking it. I remember clear as me talking to you right now, her saying that. So I'm laying there and I don't know they're doing it, but I find out later they pump me with painkiller. And she leans over my head and goes, this drug's not working. This drug's not working. So we're going to put you in twilight. And as she's talking, they're injecting me with this. And my wife, I love her. I love my wife to death. She's sitting there taking notes the whole time with her phone. What drugs they're giving me, what they're doing. So this is how I find all this out later. And as soon as she plunges that needle, Eric, I went, oh, no wonder people chase fake stuff to try to. Eric, I want to tell you that felt amazing.
What did they inject?
I can't diet something. I can't remember. It started with a D. It's like Diatrona something. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But
was it an opioid?
I think so. So I could see kind of what's going on, but I am just completely out of it. I wake up in the hospital room with a morphine drip, and neurosurgeon came, and he's like, "I'll take your case," and I'm like, "I don't even know who you are, dude." And come to find out, he was Ronald Reagan's neurosurgeon.
Oh, that's good.
I was like, "Oh, I'm in good hands." And I remember his bedside manner picked me up right away. Knew my attitude and the way I talk and the way I am. He come in Sunday afternoon and says, "I'm going to operate on you, but I can't until Friday." And I said, "Friday? Why not Friday? Or why Friday?" He goes, "Because I'm not going to operate on you until I have my vascular surgeon. I need my vascular surgeon." I was like, "Okay, so I have to stay here till Friday?" And he's like, he looks down at my legs and looks at me and goes, "Where the fuck are you going to go?" I was like, "Hey, you got a point. All right, see you on Friday, dude." He came and saw me every day. I love the guy to death, man. He's such a good dude. God.
What did you need a vascular surgeon for?
They went in through the front. They put he calls it a bikini scar. They went right at the belt line, and they put a 6-inch hole in me. So they moved all the organs out of the way.
See.
And then, so what happened was, the way he describes it, you ever bite into a cheeseburger and all the shit flies out the other end? That's exactly what happened to the disc in my back. And what I found out, what was super cool, is the little jelly that's in your disc.
That's right.
Is foreign to your body. Your body doesn't know that it's in there. So your backache is when a little bit of that jelly pops out. I'm quoting my neurosurgeon. When that little bit of jelly pops out, it's the same as throwing a pencil in your back.
Yeah,
and
so
your body attacks it. Yep. And that's why you get a backache, because your body attacks that area, tightens everything up to protect it.
That's interesting.
And
I
then
always thought that spinal fluid, that gel that you're talking about, was like hyaluronic acid or something.
No, your body doesn't know what it. Yeah. And then once it realizes that it's, oh shit, that's the same DNA that we are. Boop, your back don't hurt anymore. Isn't that crazy?
I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
I used to be I'm in pharmaceutical advertising, and I've never heard that.
Oh,
before.
okay.
Now you're going to make me want to go to the books and research that. That's
and these names and stuff, dude, I can't pronounce them. And let me show you here real quick. I think I got it. You'll like it since you're in the pharmaceutical thing here. I thought I had a picture of it. I thought I had a ready picture of it. I guess come on now.
It's okay. I'm curious. So what they had to do is basically clean up all of that goose that got all over.
My disc is gone, and it's carbon. It's a piece of carbon fiber that articulates.
Oh, so they actually replaced it. In the old days, they just fused it. They just fused the two vertebrae.
Yep, this was the new way. I remember him coming in the day before, and he goes, "Okay, you got 3 options, and option A is what I want is to put this piece in." And he actually had the piece. Not. I don't know if it's the piece that's in my back, but he had a sample or whatever, right? And he goes, "I want to put this in, depending on how much scar tissue, yada, 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 yada," right? He goes, "If I get this done, you're going to have like 90% mobility. You're a healthy guy. Your blood work's amazing. You're a little beat up from lifetime of activity." But he goes, "Organ wise and blood work wise, you're extremely healthy. So I think I'll be able to do this." I said, "All right." And he goes, "Option B is we fuse it together and you might have 60% mobility, what you're used to."
Right. That's
right.
What they, yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa, fuck, dude, I don't want that." And he turns and starts walking away. And I was like, "Option C?" And he waves over his back. He goes, "You don't walk again." And walk out the door. So, yeah, I love the dude to death, man. He just knows it. And let me see.
Let's see that. So what in the middle? What I'm looking at in the middle is the is the oh, I see it now. It's like oh wow, it does look like a disc, physically like a disc.
And it articulates. See
That's amazing.
see the center is smaller.
Yeah.
So it rotates like a disc would.
That is kind of cool.
And I've had that since 2016. And
I learned two things from you.
What's that?
I learned about that, what that disc is like. That first, for there is such a thing, and those what they look like, and also what the interior the interior of the spinal of the disc is. What that stuff really is.
I don't know.
I thought it was hyaluronic acid. I just thought it was the same stuff that you see in cartilage.
Yeah, and I'm quoting him, dude. So I don't know, but I'm kind of thinking he knows what the hell he's talking.
How long did it take you to be recovered?
So I had the video company at the time, and I got to tell you this part. My editor, before he became our editor, did medical paperwork. So like he would do back paperwork, like billing and shit like that, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, dude, the most things I see is that people don't do physical therapy. They're like, I got it. This is fine. I'll do, that attitude, right? And I told my wife, I said, shit, whatever the physical therapist says, whatever the neurosurgeon says, I'm doing that shit to a T.
That's right.
Obviously they know better than I do, right? The physical therapist, this is the part of the story I wanted to tell you earlier, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this. I'd love it. I came into my hospital room at like 6:00 Friday night, right? Yeah, somewhere in there. About 9:00, the physical therapist showed up at my bed with one of those walkers. It was like, get out of bed. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I ain't walked in a week. I just had surgery, back surgery. And, I'm just ranting. She wouldn't have nothing of it, man. And she was probably 5'5" and weighed 90 pounds. And she tore my ass apart, dude. She's like, you get out of bed, and I was like, all right. I could wiggle my toes. I couldn't walk. I was holding myself up, right? But I could feel the ground underneath me. And I was like, oh my God, this is what the fuck, And she takes me to her room. It's got like a toilet and 3 stairs and a sink. Now, I'm telling you, if you never had a back issue, bending over, washing or brushing your teeth, you take for granted. Without support, without leaning on the sink, if you bend over and brush your teeth just a little bit, so you don't slobber all over, like into the sink. If you've never had a back issue, dude, you totally take that for granted, because that doesn't happen once you have a back issue.
Yeah. I've had back spasms, but nothing. And I know what you're saying, because it makes it painful to, tie your shoes and do things like that.
Right.
But what you're talking about is on another level. I mean,
so we walk into this room, and from straight across the room, from ceiling to floor, wall to wall, is painted. Motion is lotion. And I just went, holy shit.
Motion is lotion.
Goes back to what we were just talking about. Just keep moving, dude. Do something.
Exactly.
Your back doesn't hurt because you're not moving. Your back hurts because you're not moving.
Right. Well, yeah, it's counterintuitive. A lot of people feel like they have. I worked on a medication called Synvisc. It's actually an injectable thing for the hyaluronic acid for the knee. And people with knee problems, basically they became sedentary because it was very hard for them to move. But it's counterintuitive that what you need to do is, when you have a knee problem, is you have to work out, you have to walk, you have to do as much as you can, even though it's hard to do it, because the more sedentary you are, the less you do, you become creaky like the Tin Man, right?
Yeah. That's a good scenario. Yeah. No, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. No, but that was the key, but the key is to but it's easy for somebody who doesn't have these issues to talk about it. I mean, it is hard. I can understand how a person would feel who's really, it hurts to move, because we all know if your knee hurts, it's really hard to walk, to do anything. So, but sitting there and retreating from it, that's not the answer.
No. So what the guy did was, my neurosurgeon said, I can't keep you out of the gym. I know I can't, but the free weights, they don't exist. I'm going to give you for 2 weeks. I want you to do X. Okay. Come see me. For 2 weeks, I do that. For the next 2 weeks, this, and so forth, right? For 3 months, I did that. And I'm going to tell you, Eric, I came out of, after 3 months, he goes, you're good, dude. See ya. I hope I don't see you again. I'm like, same here, dude. And was in 2016. And when I came out of that, I'll call it physical therapy, I've never been so strong in my life. The strength that I had, that I still try to carry it to this day, it was incredible. It was amazing. And what he was doing was, this thing is carbon fiber, and then on top and bottom, it's like mesh titanium. And then what he was doing, he goes, I don't want you to do any compression on your back.
Right.
So no overhead presses, no jumping, none of that. You can pull down, but don't push up. I said, okay. Because he goes, I want the bone to fill in the mesh.
Right.
So I want it to fuse to your spine.
Right. So it's like
And then one day I remember he goes, I need you to do everything possible. He goes, I don't care if you just jump up and down constantly for the next 2 weeks. I just need you to compress your back as much as possible for the next 2 weeks. He goes, at this point, all that should be grown in. So what I want you to do is smash it and break it, compress it. Now it'll grow back in
stronger,
100%. Yep.
Hey, isn't that the way? That's the whole concept of muscle building. You rip the muscles, they build stronger. They knit stronger. It's always the way it is.
Dude, I can, what was it, last week? I think, I don't even know what the week before, 600-pound deadlifts for reps, and I did a 36-minute 5K. So, not bad.
No, but be careful, because you already had one disc problem. So,
Yeah, I know. I am so cautious of that stuff. Yeah, I'm so cautious of that stuff, dude. And it's like skating, going back, skating, snowboarding. I used to snowboard like an animal. I don't do that anymore. I can physically skate. Like, I can still skate, roller skate, ice skate. But no, dude. Can you imagine goofing around with my 3-year-old son on roller skates and I fall and hit my tailbone and crack that? No.
And what really is not even the fall itself could be very deleterious to your health, but also even when you realize your body's out of balance or control, and you're trying to reestablish balance. So you're twisting, and it's in those desperate efforts to maintain your balance. That's where a lot of the issues come in. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So working out, being physical, I just think that's where we're built, like, as humans. We're built to swim and pick things up and move things and move around and walk. But another part of that is, and I try to teach my son as well, and I try to do it as well. Yeah, sure, working your legs and your lungs and your heart's good, but you still got to work your brain.
Sure.
Intellectual exercises are some of the best things ever.
No, well, for me, there was always the intellectual first. I mean, I love to play touch football, and Yeah, I was always I was basically made to express myself from the time I was a kid. I was always reading, I was always writing, I was always doing something expressive. But I also liked playing touch football and doing all those things. But it was always secondary for me. It was always the main event was always writing. It was always doing something with self-expression, with thinking. I would, my mother bought an encyclopedia when I was a kid, and when I was like, I guess 10 years old. And as soon as she got it, I mean, I was like looking at it, reading all the articles in it. At that time, it was weird. I gravitated toward the writers. Like I would read about Shakespeare, I'd read about Dostoevsky, I'd read about these guys, and this was fine print. But one thing that seemed to connect all of these writers was that it always says they suffered. So one day I said to my mother, I said, I don't know, do I suffer? Do I suffer enough to be a writer? She says, I don't know about you, but you're making me suffer.
That's amazing.
So, that was me. But yeah, I always was into that. I guess you would say I was like, the 98-pound weakling, on the beach. I was more that type. I was strong for my size, but I was very, 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 I weighed very little. As a matter of fact, when we used to have in gym class, they would pair us off during the wrestling component of PE, of phys ed. And I was always paired with the other guy who was like 130 pounds or whatever, And it was really sad, because one of us had to win, and I always felt bad because I didn't want to be actually the lowest. I mean, and I always felt bad about that because basically we both deserved to be last place, right? But I usually beat him. I was a little bigger, a little taller, a little stronger. But that was it. And I remember my only college experience, in fact, my only quote unquote varsity experience was I got onto the rugby C team, which meant that I was like the junior varsity. And I remember once playing a scrimmage with another college team, and I thought I'd run for I don't know, it's called a touch. It's a try, not a touchdown.
Yeah.
And but then the referee blew the whistle because he said that it had been a knock on. The ball had hit the ground before I picked it up. And so I was like so despondent over that. And of course, the next play, the other team scores a try, we lose. And I guess that was really my short varsity team athletic experience. I never really got into it. In the Peace Corps, I played softball. That was kind of cool, because that's the softball, baseball. These are the quintessential American sports. And when you go overseas, we were in Tunisia, North Africa. That people want to see the Americans,
Yeah.
play softball, and so it was kind of fun,
So what made you join the Peace Corps?
Oh, well, I wanted to see the world. In the old days, I guess guys like me would have joined the Merchant Marine or the Navy, or the Diplomatic Corps. I just joined the Peace Corps. I done some teaching in college. I taught English as a second language to these students from Doshisha University in Japan. And so I had some experience with that. And so I went into the Peace Corps. I got, it seemed like a cool thing to do. I didn't have to pick up a gun or go through boot camp or do anything like that. So that's what I did. I went into the Peace Corps. I knew French. I'd been overseas my junior year. I studied French. And I joined the Peace Corps. In fact, I wrote a book sort of based on that experience called Mad Nomad, a Peace Corps volunteer dealing with the many multicultural issues that come from being an American in an ex-French colony of Muslim Arabs, You can see all that complexity and possible hostility, and believe me, there's plenty of that. And of course, little takeoffs, parodies of Lawrence of Arabia, Lawrence O'Toole, wearing the Palestinian shashia, that scarf that goes around your like swashbuckling around. Of course, in my case, or in the case of the character in this book, he was wearing clogs, so he was clogging around this really hard, sandy, desert, with the Arab turban. The whole thing was it's kind of and of the burnous, those big rug-like ponchos that they wear. So that was my Peace Corps experience, and that was a while ago. And I wrote about it. It was fun. All of these things, they weren't always fun at the time, obviously. But my feeling is I was just reading something on my Facebook feed. Susan Sontag, intellectual, great American intellectual, writer, critic. She once wrote that the greatest writers of her generation were destroyed by academia, by being in academia. Which I guess was her, basically, so many writers of our generation, my generation, maybe your generation, to make a living, to be in having free time to write, they work in universities. On one hand, working in a university is a great gig because you get a lot of free time, you get a steady income, and you're in an environment where people really respect writers. They respect novels and poetry and all the rest of it. The downside, though, is you don't get to mingle with real life people who do jobs where they have to use their minds to solve problems like, how am I going to get across town in 20 minutes, or how am I going to deal with this double parked cars? How am I going to deal with these, whatever practical issue comes up? I have a theory, which is that most people in our society, because we didn't have nobility, we don't have a caste system like they used to have in England, and like they have in India. For us, it's how you spend your intellect. People who get to spend their intellect doing clean jobs like law, accounting, banking, those people would be presumed to be on a higher caste than guys like plumbers, cab drivers, truck drivers, retail people, because those people have to use their minds on more practical, more smart issues. But to me, I was thinking, a lot of that is bull, because just because a person does law doesn't mean they're doing anything that's constructive, stimulating, creative, or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I would have to say that my whole life, if you wanted to put my life in a capsule, you'd say everything that I've ever thought, everything I've ever been good at, people didn't really want to pay me for. And anything that I wasn't particularly interested in or good at, people were willing to throw the jobs at me. And it was like, it's almost like there's a kind of weird, perverse, antipathetic energy that goes between people's aptitudes and what people want them to do. People saw me and they said, "Oh yeah, you want to be a journalist? Oh, but we have an opening for space sales, selling advertising space or whatever it is." And I think that, and to some extent, getting back to getting into this music, the rock and roll book that I wrote, to some extent, that's what this protagonist is up against. In fact, that's what all my protagonists are up against. It's always like the individual trying to assert what's of value to him against this world that's kind of chaotic, somewhat hostile, certainly inscrutible. I mean, I'm sure you've been in your life, you've seen how things just don't make sense. Like, why did this happen? Why did so-and-so even behave? What was the motivation for this person's behavior? It doesn't make sense if you really look at it from the outside. And yet, that's the way a lot of things seem to go, So in Rocked and Rolled, for instance, this guy, he decides he has a siren song. He decides he wants to be. He hears some songs in his head. He writes some lyrics. And he decides, I want to be a singer songwriter. He doesn't know if he completely believes in this dream, but more and more he seems to get pulled into it, and then he finds himself actually doing it and trying to cope with all of the different stresses and all the different things he has to do, singing in his cab so that, because he has nowhere else to sing, so he can develop his chops, and so he can overcome stage fright, and he believes in the dream. The dream is, Lana Turner was discovered at Schwab's Deli sitting on a stool. So he thinks, well, somebody's going to discover me driving the singing cab driver, and things like that,
Well, I had a producer on, a legendary producer out of New York City, Jay Messina is his name. And he goes, yeah, we went to this restaurant one time, and he was with Aerosmith and all that. He goes, Nora Jones was our waitress.
Nora Jones. She was she like won a lot of Grammy Awards. Wasn't she like she was the daughter of Ravi Shankar? Can you believe that?
He goes, she was our waitress. So it's like
that's amazing. Yeah,
same thing, you know.
She's good for her.
Yeah.
The guys I write about, the people I write about, it's almost like it's the late 70s, early 80s, the punk rock, new wave scene. It's like there may be 500 bands, and every one of them wants to make it. All of them want to play these few clubs and get these few record contracts. And every one of them knows somebody who says, oh, you know, give me your tape. I'll get it into my cousin Vinny, who knows, who has an uncle, who knows a guy who's his best friend from the army, who's now an A&R guy. And somehow through this very improbable, tangential chain of provenance, we're going to get, the record deal. We're going to get somebody of consequence to listen to the tape, to listen to the demo. And it is. It's sort of like that. There's a lot of name dropping. There's a lot of, because everybody knows it's a very narrow funnel. You got you have a lot of people on top of the funnel trying to squeeze through into the bottle, right? Into the bottle of success. And it's really tough, but
now let me ask you this. So I picture you in the Peace Corps sitting in a tent in the middle of the desert taking notes. And like, when did this really kick off in your soul? Like, I want to write. I want to write. I want to write. I want to write. And that's all I want.
Well before that, I told you, when I was a kid, this is weird, but it's true. And I luckily, I've never done too many drugs or done too many intoxicants.
You're missing out.
Freud tells us that intoxication is one of the only three ways we can escape the discomfort of being organisms, of being human. It's either intoxication, art, or work. Those are the three. But the thing is, I've never been so intoxicated that I didn't preserve my memory. And so I remember when I was a little boy, I'm telling you, like 6 years old, 7 years old, my parents got a pack of playing cards called authors. And it was like a rummy deck. Instead of having spades and hearts and diamonds and clubs, you had Shakespeare and Melville and Tennyson.
How great is that?
And instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, you had their biggest books. And what you had to do was you had to match. Like I win. I got 4 Dickens and 4 Shakespeares, and that kind of. I learned the names of so it was implanted in my brain. Hey, authors are cool people. These are people you want to be like.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the encyclopedias, and what was I gravitating toward? I was looking up authors. And then I started reading Shakespeare when I was in, summertime. I didn't have much to do. So I would read Shakespeare. I read David Copperfield, Dickens' book, Oliver Twist, and so on. Then as I got older, I started, my essays got entered in contests. I started winning contests, not just in school, but in, these foundations or, and I'd make money I'd get prizes for it. And so it was building. And at a certain point, I had a teacher who said, Eric, you're a better writer. I'd written some essay, who knows? And he said to me, you may have been joking, but, sometimes, kids take these things very seriously. He said, you're a better writer than Philip Roth.
What?
14 years old. It reminds me of this. I don't know if you know this movie, Blood and Sand. There's this young matador, and he just basically survived in the ring his first time. But he sees this old man on a train who's reading a review. He's reading the reviews. He says, can you tell me? He doesn't know how to read. So he's saying, can you tell me? I am, Juan Rivera. Can you tell me what they say about Juan Rivera, the matador? So the guy reads it and it probably says, this guy is horse manure. I mean, this guy is terrible. He should go back to his hometown and drive mules for a living, whatever. But the guy sees that this young guy is really into it. He's so impressionable, and he doesn't want to crush this young boy's spirit. So he says to him, he says that he's a genius, and he shall be the next great matador of Spain.
Nice.
So in a sense, this guy telling me, this teacher I looked up to, telling me
same thing,
right? It was the same thing. And at that point, Walt, I dedicated my life to being a writer at the age of 14. But you know what? When you look back in the old days, back when, people had apprenticeships, when, there were trades, and a candle maker would have an apprentice, the apprentice would sign on when he was 14.
I was just going to say,
14 is a real natural age for somebody to decide what they want to do in their life, I think.
Well, that too, and like your age too, like if you don't, how old are you? Or what generation are you?
No, my wife's shaking her head. Don't do that. One thing I'm generation older than you are. At least a generation. I bet you're in your 40s, right?
No, I turned 50 in a month.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a generation older than you are.
Oh, you're a good looking dude, man.
Oh man. Yeah, you said you're a flatterer, but I appreciate it. But
no, you're a good looking dude.
I'm getting up there.
I tell you what, I think you look better than your profile picture on Match.com.
Oh my God! Oh, don't say it, Marilyn. He's just joking. He's just joking.
What?
But anyway, my wife's sitting here. Oh, Match.com. Oh man, you're getting to me in a lot of trouble.
Well, dude, I'm looking at your picture. I don't know how long ago that was, but anyway, going back generational stuff. That was like you said. Okay. Apprentice with a candle maker and stuff, but even earlier than that would be, I'm going to be a police officer, I'm going to be a fireman, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be like at 15, 17 years old, you knew what you wanted to do. And what I'm getting to at is generational, is our generation was like that. Hey, by the time you're 20, you kind of knew what you wanted to do.
Sure.
Nowadays it's like, hey, I'm going to do this for a couple of years. I'm going to do this for a couple of years. I'm going to do this. And that's cool. Do whatever you want to do. It doesn't, I don't care.
I don't know about you, but there was also a real parental pressure. It started it starts with parents telling you, you can't make a living being a writer. In fact, I had a teacher in high school who himself was a writer. He was the patron of the yearbook. He was the patron of the faculty consultant on the student newspaper. I mean, he was basically there to nurture people to love English and love language and so on. And he was telling my mother, he can't make a living being a writer. And so my mother, she wanted me also to be a lawyer. She wanted me to do something that she knew could make money, that, you were smart, you're supposed to be a lawyer, a doctor, something like that. And so that starts there, the kind of negative stimulus to not follow writing or not be a creative person. Then, of course, you hit reality. And as I say, whatever you want to do. Oh, you want to write articles, sell advertising. You want to write creative, be an editor. I mean, nobody ever wants you to be the person you want to be. They just don't want you to do what you want to do. And it almost seems that they're almost poised to pounce on anything that you try to prove. Anytime you try to prove to them.
100%.
I remember submitting scripts I wrote to this director. She was a female director and one of the first who actually broke through. And her assistant had liked the scripts I wrote and said, you're really a writer. And she got me in to see this director. And this director was sitting there with her feet on the like some macho guy, right? So sitting there with her feet on the desk. And she's saying to me, well, yeah, you're a writer. So what you should do? Go out to Hollywood and do favors for people for 10 years. So I'm sitting there going, do favors for people? I mean, what does that even mean? How's that going to... Well, in a way, she was telling me the truth. I mean, a lot of people, that's what happens in Hollywood. That's what happens in these industries. You give a little, you get a little, it's a trade-off. You're somebody's assistant. Maybe they introduce you to somebody else, and it's all about people and relationships, blah, 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 blah. For me, I always thought it was about the writing, or if it was music, it was about the music. People have said to me, your book doesn't have a whole lot of the sinful trinity, drug, sex, and rock and roll. How can you have a book about rock and roll and not have the drugs and sex? Everybody expects it. I mean, it's almost like it's like fluoride in the water.
Right.
And so I said, for this guy, Trevor, music is a calling. He believes he's doing rock and roll. It's almost like the Blues Brothers. I'm on a mission of God. He thinks he's on a mission to do rock and roll, and that he's got to purify himself. He stops smoking. He doesn't do the drugs. He doesn't do the alcohol. Of course, he's the protagonist and it's a comic historical novel. I mean, but the point is that I do believe that that there is something, the creative life is something of value. It's not to be demeaned. It's not something that has to have an additive. It doesn't have to have all of these cliches attached to it in order to be quote unquote palatable. And I think a lot of people, who've read the book have said to me, this looks like a nonfiction, and somebody saying it's gritty, it's graphic, and I think what they're saying is like like Joseph Conrad, the writer, once said, I want people to see what I'm writing about. I want them to smell the pizza, the sour milk in the garbage cans. I want them to see the blood on the streets and the supers hosing it down in the water in the morning. I want them to hear the cacophony, go into the clubs and hear the cacophony and see the people, like either dancing wildly or slumped over at the bar.
Right.
See all of that. I want them to see it. And
that's amazing. So now you have this. I gotta bring it back a little bit
okay, bring it back.
Yeah. So now you're what, 14, 15. We're gonna move through a timeline.
Okay, cool.
And now you're in high school. You're writing.
Yeah.
And you figure out you got to make a living now. No,
I didn't see anything like that, Walt. I assumed when I was growing up, writers were kind of celebrities. There was no reason to believe. If you believe in yourself and you believe, and you've got somebody telling you you're as good as this guy who's been out there for, there's no reason to believe. I wasn't going to start off, sabotaging myself by thinking, oh, you can't make it. I always believed I could make it. And that's
good for you. Dude. That's awesome.
Somebody sent me a letter that I once wrote, and I was not always the nicest person. I mean, it was this girlfriend. She was a woman who wanted to be my girlfriend or something, or it didn't work out, whatever. And I sent her something like, I'm already, the people here really like my writing. They consider me the greatest writer at my college, and I was like so full of myself, I look at it, I have to laugh, but in the end I have to say, damn it, I'm so glad I had that kind of confidence, as stupid as it might have been.
No, I think that kind of
it might have been. If I didn't start off with that full tank of confidence, I couldn't have gotten to the finish line on the half gallon that I've got now, right? I mean, you've got to have that. You've got to believe that no matter how quixotic it might seem, no matter how crazy the dream is, if you don't believe you're going to make it,
you're going to make. No, I mean, that's a pretty good example of fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Yeah. And believe me, people were always like telling me I was faking it. I go into parties and they say, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a writer. Oh, yeah. What have you published? Where do you
where can I get your stuff?
What magazine do you write for? Where's your byline? They're always, but you know what? And it stung. It did. It stung. But you know what? I didn't ultimately. I obviously did crap.
That's awesome.
Because I kept on doing it. I've written 10 books. So, and I don't, and to this day, people will probably try to find like, oh yeah, well, are you with Random House or whatever? No, but it doesn't bother me. Does it bother you? You can find my books on Amazon,
Yeah. Well, that was my
publisher. You find them on Amazon.
So that was my next question. So now here you are going at it right from the beginning. And back then, we'll say back then.
Yeah.
it wasn't self-publishing, right? Did you have to deal with a publishing house at that point?
Oh, not only publishing houses. Yeah, I would try to bypass agents because the agents were impossible. I mean, you would be sending in a letter to an agent, you wouldn't get anything back. I would send a book to an agent. I would get on the phone with this agent at this agent's office once a month, not all the time, but finally 6 months later, the manuscript was sent back to me in a box. Not one page was in the right order. And his final thought to me was, turn all of your men into women. Turn all the male characters into female. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you had to do. It was abuse on the lowest level.
Yeah, I was just going to say lowest level.
On the lowest level. And then I would then I'd bypass them, go to publishers, try to, you basically, they want nibbles. They want you, give us 10 pages, give us 5 pages. Tell us what your book's about. That is the biggest, phoniest come on you've ever heard, Walt, because you know very well, if you try to put Moby Dick, tell us about Moby Dick.
No,
Herman Melville, tell us about Moby Dick in 25 words or less. Franz Kafka, tell us about the trial in 25 words or less. James Joyce, you've written 781-page Ulysses. Tell us what it's about in 25 words or less. It doesn't work. And yet they do that. They did that to people, not just me. I'm not a Mr. Persecuted. I'm not I have no complex about this. I am just one of the cannon fodder. I'm like one of the many, many people that this happened to. But I didn't care. I did care, but I got over it.
But isn't that
let it stop me?
No, but isn't that so? We could use the same example of books and people trying to get publishers is the funnel example that you used with the bands. Here's all these bands trying to get down into the funnel.
That's right.
Same exact concept, right?
But we'll look what's happened. Unfortunately, because that was mismanaged. One of the things that my book does talk about is there are certain anomalies. I just mentioned one, that it's not about the trinity of drug, sex, and rock and roll. Another is that it's about how the people who actually were running the music industry didn't really care about the music.
No.
And I'm not just talking about the highest guys. Okay, you expect the Walter Yetnikovs, the chairmans, the CEOs, of course they may not care about it. Clive Davis did, even when he was up there at the top.
Yeah, but look where he came from, though. Right.
Yeah, he was an A&R guy. Right. But the thing is that a lot of even the mid-level guys, the A&R guys, you would think that was their bread and butter. They go out to clubs, they hear the talent, they listen to things. That's what they're supposed to do. And they even didn't talk about it. They didn't care about it. I remember some A&R guy saying to me, Eric, you're going to find out, and as you get in the music business, that the music business isn't very businesslike. And what can you say? I mean, here are these guys. They're more in a way more libertines. They're more abused. They're more into drunkenness and abuse and all the other things than the acts that they're supposedly covering, than the guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that. They're more dissipated, if you will, and more into the corruption of it all. The moral turpitude. They're more into that than the acts that they cover.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think that here's a guy that is in that position? He probably didn't have shit growing up, was probably like the outcast, didn't have he wasn't like the football player, nothing.
Right.
Now here he is, he's a hot shot, and all these bands want a piece of him, and now he's just kind of picking up the scraps of where the bands, he's picking that stuff up. I could totally see that scene. Yeah.
No, you've basically done a good generic profile of that kind of individual. He's like in an executive position, and now he's milking it for all it's worth. Doesn't make it, but unfortunately, when you got an industry that's that's being subverted by many people like this who are not very business-like, who don't seem to know what their business is. And you've got a lot of talent out there that's just it's almost like a farmer. You know this from being on a farm. You're a farmer who grows all this crop, but he decides, I don't really care about all the crop. I just care about this little acre here, or this little thing I've got going over here. And the rest of the crop just dies
away.
Dies on the stalk. And that's essentially what we had in the music business.
I can't even imagine the music business, and probably every business. It's just disgusting in a way, right? You deal with those types of people, but look at all the great stuff that came out of those industries.
Sometimes by accident, almost.
Sometimes. That's a good point. Yeah.
But you know what? You can't. You know what? The exception doesn't prove the rule. See, in our society.
I like that. Oh my God, I like that.
Because we always see that. In a kind of a pyramid society like we have the top. At the top, you got the multi-billionaires, and then it all kind of goes down, and then you have this broad base of people who have very little, and people who want to justify that say, well, you know what? You see that Beyonce, she made it, and you see that Aerosmith, but you don't prove the rule. You don't. The exception doesn't prove the rule. No. And the fact that you have these few songs that you're going to have to play over and over again doesn't mitigate, or it doesn't remediate the fact that there's so much beautiful stuff out there that you'll never hear, because the guys who should have been going out there and sifting through it and scouting it and bringing it to the fore didn't know what their jobs were.
No, they going back to what we said, they going and taking advantage of what they could instead of actually bringing in true talent, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or figuring out ways. And you know what? Their chickens came home to roost, because now what happened when you had what's it called? The Napster. I think it's called Napster.
Napster.
Napster. The trade, free swapping of.
Oh, I remember when all that happened.
And all this piracy, and people and not even on the Napster level, people just deciding, hey, I'm gonna do a tape for you. I'm gonna do an exercise tape for you, and it's gonna have all this music on it, and you're not gonna pay a thing for it, and I'm not gonna pay a thing for it.
Right.
And so many artists are making nothing, and so many record companies are either out of business or consolidated. I don't even know how they make money anymore. Maybe on Spotify or something like that. But it's all because it all started. Some of it was adventitious. Some of it just started because you had the digital world came in.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, was the internet, right? Somebody records it while they're there, or like now, I mean, I can easily rip off a song from YouTube and put it in my editing software, and I got it. I didn't pay for it. On
my website, I actually put out songs with lyrics that I've written, because somebody asked me on another show, well, do you have this you have a CD? Because I do have a CD. Do you have it for sale? I don't even think about it anymore. As I say, some people write about their rock and roll experience because that was the apex of their life.
Oh, sure, of course.
They're doing a nostalgia thing, and the writing is secondary. It's the music that was the big thing. For me, it's kind of the reverse. It's like the music was important. I loved doing it. I was trying hard, just like everybody, to make it. But writing the book about it has been the peak experience. And all of what I did in the music business was like field research. It was like field work, I
like that. It's like, hey, I'm going to go out and do a bunch of field work and do some research, and then I'm going to go write about it.
But the thing is, you can't do it. No, but if you did it like that, then it would be like George Plimpton, Paper Lion. It would be like a stunt. Like, what would happen if you get a skinny, long drink of water, a guy who's like got no muscles, and you put him in pads and you put him on a pro football team? How long would he last?
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is, you didn't go out there doing that on purpose, but the way you look at it, like you went out there doing field research, that's pretty cool. I like the attitude on that.
No, it's because it is. It's a little bit like, Margaret Mead went out and went out to Samoa and studied the sex lives of Samoans. She was totally into what she was doing. I mean, she was totally into looking at these people and absorbing their culture and learning from it. But then she came home and she wrote a classic book about it, and it ends up being the book about it that we cherish. I mean, we'll never get the experience.
Sure.
Them. And but the Samoans themselves have changed, But no, it's true. I really have to say that this has been a great opportunity for me just to be able to write this book. And I went through so many iterations, so many drafts, because, I just wanted it to be, just right, just the way it should be.
So what I like to ask you guys, the people, because writing a book is fucking way beyond me. I like writing a simple blog, but to put like storylines together and this not my type of thing. I'm more of an audio guy. So what I'd like to ask you guys is like your process. Are you the type that, okay, from 4 to 6, I'm going to write 5,000 words and that's it? Or like when it strikes, you and your lovely wife are having coffee, you're like, oh shit, I'll be right back. And then you run down and write something down. Like, all of it? Mm.
I would say this. I had a girlfriend when I was in college who used to mock me for carrying a notebook. She said, she quoted Sherwood Anderson. She said, a good writer never carries a notebook, because you know what it is? It's a little bit like Heisenberg's principle. If you're carrying a notebook, the people you're around are going to notice your notebook, and they may not be as candid. They may not be as natural, because there's a guy here who's going to be taking down what we say. So in a way, and also you're going to be so into writing in your notebook that you're not going to be fully filtering and experiencing. There's a thing that John Keats mentioned called negative capability, where the artist has to be completely open, like dilated completely, and letting experience come in. A little bit like the whale's mouth, when the whale opens its mouth and all the plankton comes in. Right. You got to be like that. And so there is a little bit of that. But I will say this: when I'm some of my best thoughts come when I'm in the swimming pool. Now, obviously, there is no notebook that you can write. Right. Because there's no pen and there's no paper that's going to be waterproof. But I will, like a mantra, I will repeat the thought. I will repeat it. I'll even lose track of where I am in my laps just to repeat the thought, so that when I get out of the pool, I go straight to my locker and I write on whatever's close. If it's a piece of toilet paper, I'll write on. That toilet paper is not good writing.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Absorbent.
But you don't have a cell phone
or whatever.
You don't have like a cell phone to like send yourself an email or something?
Oh, you are a master. Yes, I've learned about how great the note app is on the cell phone.
Dude,
before I discovered that wonderful technological development, I would just.
You're writing on toilet paper.
I write on anything, man. I'd write on my feet. I'd write on my hand.
I can't even tell you how many times I'd write on my forearm would be covered with notes. Because I would just be like, shit, I got to write this down.
Man,
what do I got?
Cool tat. When did Walt get into tats, man? Wow, that was so cool.
What's that say? I don't know. I can't read it either by now. But because I always carry it, because it's my nature. I always have a pen with me. So I'd write on the back of my hand, my palm, my forearm. But now, of course, with technology, like you said, I just pick up my phone. And my Android is amazing with talk to text, with my country ass talking. Yeah. So I just send myself an email and go, send. And then when I sit down at my desk, I pop it up and then, move forward with it from there. I don't use the notes part. I send myself an email.
That is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because then you can file it, you can keep it, and so you always know where it is.
Yep. But so you just
let me answer the second part of your question.
Okay.
Is that the only time? No, that's just to show how I try to trap the ideas. I'm like a fisherman. I'm always got the nets open. But I also spend a lot of I devote time to writing. I mean, for me now, I do a lot in the evening. I would spend early on when I was making the transition from rock and roll to writing. It was hard, so I had to. I had to push myself. I had a little like a little calendar. Like it had every day had a little box, and I would write how many pages I wrote that day. That was my way of doing it. Of course, that doesn't mean you're doing anything of value. It just means that you're being disciplined.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the way I look at it, you could put this to writing, is working around my house or working on this project here, this podcast project. I might not feel like I'm going to do anything, but if I just sit down and start working and start doing something, then it just starts coming to me. And then, it's 4 hours later. And you're like, holy shit, look at all this I got done. So with writing, would it be, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to start typing words. I don't even know what I want to type at this moment, but I just want to start. And then does it come around?
Well, I have to say that at this point, now what you're saying, maybe at the beginning when I was like at square one and I was starting a book, I would do it that. But because I do take notes and compile them, whenever I start a project, I'm already in the process of recording or recording things or inputting, rather than simply starting with that intimidating blank page. I don't have a blank page I always have something to work on. I always have something that's either
direction to go,
some stage of in some incipient stage, some stage of development, of evolution. And so I don't really have to deal with that blank page too much. I do sometimes have to harness myself and say, okay, well, now you're a little bit, unfocused. Isn't there something you should be looking at? I go, yeah, what about that essay that I was working on? Maybe I should take another look at that. Or maybe I should take another look at this chapter that was bothering me. Is this really where it has to be? And usually once I get myself into the seat, you're right. There's something very valuable to that. And that's where the weightlifting is a very good analogy, because you wouldn't sit down, you wouldn't lie down on the bench with the weights, with the barbell over you and just sit there, would you?
Right.
When you're lying there and the barbell's above you, that's a prompt. You've got to lift it. And same thing sitting at a computer. You're sitting at the computer, that's your prompt to write.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That prompt if you're just walking around or running around or doing something else.
Yeah. No, I like that. And you're working around the house or something. No, sit in front of the computer, sit in front of your pad, and we're talking about body and mind and the connection and stuff. And when I was doing martial arts, I would have to write two theses a year. My instructor would say, okay, I'll give you a subject and you pick a subject. And when he gave me his subject to write, I had to do it the old school way with pen. It had to be pen and paper. It couldn't be typed.
Uh-huh.
And then it had to be the old paragraphs and the outlines, in school,
Definitely.
And he truly believed that there's a connection when you're physically writing words, not typing them. It's the left brain, right brain thing.
I was just working on, you're so right. I was just working on, I'm working on my next book of essays. My next book's going to be a book of essays.
Oh, I like those. I'm a fan of those.
The lost art of handwriting. Because, in a lot of states, they've discontinued the use of cursive writing. And I remember I was sitting at a Starbucks with my wife after dropping our kid off in school. And a man came over to me. I was writing in my notebook, and he says, I just want to tell you, I'm so impressed that you're writing by hand. I don't know anybody who writes by hand anymore.
Especially in the environment you're in Starbucks, dude. Who's got a pen and paper? Everybody's got a damn phone or an iPad or a laptop.
Yeah, now even laptops are a little bit passé. People are all into their phones.
Oh.
I walk down. People have got their phones on. They're walking down the street. They're crossing streets. They're doing everything. Anywhere they're looking at. They're in a movie and they're looking at their screens. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. But what can you do, man? I guess they say that's progress or evolution or something. I don't know.
Evolution.
Yeah, it's something.
I just think, dude, listening to you, I mean, it's amazing. I can just feel your passion. I got goosebumps, dude. I can feel your passion about writing, and I think that's amazing. Who's your favorite writer?
Who's my favorite writer? Oh, I have a few. I would say the one writer who had probably the most impact on me was Franz Kafka. Why? Because any writer who can write a novella, a short story about a human-sized cockroach and make me sympathize with that cockroach, he's a magician. He's a genius.
That's amazing.
He wrote about a guy who was in a cage in a zoo. He was a hunger artist, and he was right next to the leopard, between the leopard and the lion. And here's the hunger artist, and what he did was just starve himself. And when he was about to die, they said to him, why did you do this? Why did you starve yourself to death? He said, because I never found any food I wanted to eat. That is a funny, I ruined it for you, but you should read it. Anyway, so Franz Kafka is definitely a big, big influence. Who are some other influences? Henry Miller. You asked me, do I write autobiographically? Henry Miller, Jack Kerouac, Erica Jong. There are a number of writers who are they're we call slide form. Are they writing about themselves? Are they writing fiction? Are they writing memoirs? Are they writing? You're never sure, and they slip from one to. That's what they call a slide form. It's somewhere between autobiography and fiction. And I would say those people, Henry Miller, had a huge influence on me. Not only because of the way he wrote, freedom of the way he wrote, and the fact he wrote from the first person. He wasn't full of academic. He was not academic. He wasn't trying to impress anybody with Latin and Greek and all these other things. He was just writing me to you. And I always appreciated that. So I would say he's another one. I love George Orwell because George Orwell showed me that you could be a writer who had a political sensibility, who was aware of the world around him, and was sensitive to that. And he was also somebody who wrote essays. He wrote memoir essays. He wrote fiction. He wrote a lot of different things. So I always appreciated that. I'm thinking about Shooting an Elephant, an essay he wrote about when he was the magistrate. He was the local constable, the British constable.
And he had to shoot an elephant?
Burmese village, and the Burmese villagers. There was an elephant that had gone wild. It was having must. It was like in heat, and it was going crazy, and it was trampling all over the rice paddies and all this. So he was the British policeman. He was up to him to shoot the elephant, and shooting an elephant was a little bit like you have this big, semi truck. It was like somebody saying, "Take that truck, impound it, and then take it apart for spare parts." That's a huge investment for people out there. But he was forced into this. He was the man. He had the gun. He had to go out there and shoot the elephant. So I always loved George Orwell for that. The fact that he was showing us, the intricacies and some of the ironies of what it meant to be the man, the one in power, what colonialism meant. And I thought that was really cool. I love, how
about bubblegum reads?
God, I don't know about bubblegum reads. I don't know that. I don't know about that. You're talking about bestsellers. I read. I used to like to read like E.L. Doctorow. A lot of people would say that's not bubblegum. He's a really good writer, but he was a bestseller writer. So I would say, I read Raymond Chandler. If you're talking about mystery writers, I like Raymond Chandler. Oh, I don't know.
So what's your favorite genre then? Like if you, I don't know any of these writers you're naming, obviously, because that's not my world, and it's very.
Yeah, it's all right.
But it's interesting to me.
Your audience will.
Right, and of course, what I know, we'll get into this later, but I don't know what genre they are, or like what subjects are fiction, nonfiction. So what? If you were to read some, if you were going to go upstairs or wherever in your house right now, sit in a chair, turn a lamp on, what would be your favorite type of book to read?
Well, I do like fiction, and I do like history.
I love history.
I love history. I read a really good book called City of Courts about the city of Los Angeles and how all of these different themes, Hollywood noir versus sunshine, how LA was both a city that was supposed to was advertised originally for all these rich Midwestern people who were sick or they were old. And the idea was they'd come to sunny Southern California and it would be like, paradise. They would get a second life. But then that was
shit.
So this writer who's now gone, but he wrote. He was a socialist, but he wrote from this this standpoint of looking at L.A. and Southern California from these paradoxes. Like how could a city be also a place where noir, this sort of dark side. Also eugenics, versus immigration. How the L.A. was where Scientology started. And we had a lot of eugenics, a lot of these people who believed in the super race and all the rest of it. You had Hollywood, which was basically the brainstorm of a bunch of immigrant Jews from the East Coast, from Russia and the East Coast, came out to Hollywood where they got cheap land and they basically cooked their little Nickelodeon idea. They took all the money they made from Nickelodeons and put it into investing in this real estate and everything. Meanwhile, they were up against these guys like Chandler, who was the owner of the LA Times, and all these guys who were like really right wing. These guys had limos with machine guns on them, and so you had all of this. So I like that kind of a book.
That's super cool about LA, though. I got to look into that.
No, it's fascinating. How you see.
Super fascinating.
Well, that is an American construct. That city. Someone would say New York started off as New Amsterdam. It was a colonial city. Boston, the same. Richmond and Philadelphia. All of these eastern cities had roots in Europe, but LA did not. LA did not until the emigres came from Germany to become directors and producers, and of course the Hollywood moguls. Yeah. LA was a construct of Americans, Americans, and of course they overpowered and arrogated the land of the Spanish, the Mexicans who were there, the Latino landowners.
Well, it's like, hey, we're coming in, and ain't nothing you can do to stop us. It's like Las Vegas. Look at the history of that. You ever see
another American construct?
Yeah, that's what made me think of that. Was this one street corner had this one thing in it, and it just, and then. We could talk about Vegas all night.
I've never been to Vegas. Can you believe that? What? I have never, not even once. My wife and I stopped in Reno for a night, and I like the 99-cent breakfast or whatever, and I looked around. But I'm not. Look, I never had enough money to gamble, so I never. To me, just piss. I don't know. I can say pissing it away. Pissing it away didn't make any sense to me. Well,
I look at it. I play poker a lot, and that's my entertainment. I don't look at it to make money. That's like for me going to the movies. Since 2008 with my P&L, I'm still well in the black.
Well, so that's good for you.
Yeah,
so you're a good player. That's okay.
Yeah, you have bad quarters, you have good quarters, just like every other business. But in the long run, I'm still in the black.
You never lose. When you have a bad quarter, you never lose faith in yourself. Oh man, maybe I'm not bluffing as well. Maybe I'm not.
No, it's the confidence that you had when you were 15, 16 years old. I'm confident in my ability, and I'm going to keep moving forward no matter what. And I always pull out. So
well, I more power to you. For me, I don't see that in myself. I don't know if I. I think it would take it's a long learning curve. I don't take that game for granted. I'm sure that there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of stuff to know. It's multidimensional. It's not just about the cards.
No, there's very little. When you get to a certain level, it's very little about the cards. But that's what attracts it to me, Eric, is that there is no physical. The physical part is that you have to be in pretty good shape to sit at a table for 18, 19 hours at a time.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And still keep your and still keep your wits about you, right? And I heard a guy describe Texas Hold'em, and I've used this a lot for a lot of things in my life now, is hours of boredom interrupted with moments of sheer panic.
That sounds like my life actually, but not that much fun. I don't know.
Yeah, but I enjoy it. But the history of Vegas, the thing is, like, I'm a big fan of a casino, obviously, because I play cards. But a casino is a parasite to the community wherever they go. I mean, that is not a good. When we're looking at overall, like you talk about the writing business and you talk about the music business, look at the gaming business. The majority of it, the exception is far from the rule that people make it. Look at all the degenerates and look at all the people that, like, when my wife and I, before our son, we travel a lot. And part of the deal was she loved it. I would go play cards wherever we were in the world. We travel the world. And I'd be like, I'm going to go play cards because I just want to sit with the local, environment. And I want to talk to the local guys and I want to have a good time, and do that kind of thing. And this one guy, I've watched fist fights at card games. I've seen the security guys come and drag people out unwillingly. Yeah, I've seen all sorts of shit. This one guy, he's sitting there and we're having, I wasn't having a good time. And I'm like, I'm just going to leave because, if I'm not having a good time, why would I be there? Right. And I'm like packing up going and I'm like, oh, look at that shit. I'm ready to leave and I want a hand. This is a pretty good time. And the guy goes, not unless you're trying to make a rant like me. And I'm like, I'm fucking leaving. You're sitting here playing extremely low stakes in this neighborhood casino that I found by accident when we were traveling. And I was just thought this would be fun for a couple hours just to go see the local culture. And you're in here trying to make a rant? Oh, stop, dude. You need to, you know what I mean? So you see that too. You see that desperation in that, and it that's no good for anybody. But
well, the house always wins. That's
100%. 100%. You're in Texas Hold'em in tournament style. Your variant is 70%. 70% of the time you're going to lose.
So it's a little bit like being a Major League Baseball hitter. If you can hit the 30% and win, then you're doing well.
Yep. Because like the stakes I play, like I'll put a buy-in's $150, right? And you get in the money, and you probably make anywhere from $1,200 to $4,200.
Uh-huh.
So now if you do that math, 70%, you're still in the black. Because if you make $3,000, you can play 30 times, 25 times before you need to win again. And most of the time, that's what you're going to do.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what you win is going to carry you to your next win. Now to make a living at it, go fuck yourself. No way. Takes the fun out of it.
When you said you have to buy in for $150, is that for $150 like the ticket of admission? You never see that again? Correct.
So that's a good. I never heard of there's a ticket of admission, but that's basically what it is.
You don't get it back.
Like tomorrow night, I'm going to go play. It's a casino not too far from here. They have a tournament every Thursday. It's $125. You give them $125, they give you a pile of chips. Once your pile of chips is gone, you leave. You're out.
And you can't just return those chips. That's
no. Well, you can, but then you're not going to get any money for it.
Oh yeah. Oh, no. In other words, yeah, you can't redeem those for money.
Correct. Okay. And that's a tournament style, cash game. You buy 150. You buy in for $150. You have $150 worth of casino chips. So if you play for an hour and you take what's left and you go to the cashier cage, you got $75 left. They change it in and you can leave. But I like tournament style. It's just a different style of play. So I enjoy it. It's like escapism for me because I go 1,000 miles an hour every day. You know, I'm up at 4:00 in the morning. I'll do this until 10 o'clock at night. And to me, that I put my phone away. My wife knows where I am. That's all I care about. I don't talk to anybody except for the people at the table. And I might not talk to anybody for 3 hours. But so that like decompresses me.
You know, you found something you love doing and you're obviously really good at it, and you've been doing it for years. So that's your creative outlet. That's your creativity.
Yeah. And this podcast, what's that?
One expression of it. This is another, but definitely if you've been playing cards that long and you do it successfully, that even when you haven't been successful, you love it enough and you have faith in your ability to do it enough that you keep on doing it. You've got to say that's a creative outlet.
That's a good way to look at it. Never thought of that, because like when I walk in the casino, I just assume I set that money on fire. It's gone. So in my mind, and even if I don't win any money, Eric, if I play for 5-6 hours for $125, 6 hours of entertainment for me for $125.
That's pretty good.
That's a pretty good deal. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. That's why I say it's entertainment, like going to the movies, going to a concert, you know, that kind of thing. You know, people do, you know, I don't judge anybody's escapism as long as you're not hurting kids. I don't give a shit what you do.
Absolutely. You know? I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
I was just speaking for myself. I never felt. I once played poker. A girlfriend of mine had friends years ago, and I was like, I think I was on unemployment at the time. I think I went in there with $10, and within 15 minutes, I mean, I could see that I was going to get submerged. There were people there who went in with bankrolls, and I realized, to some extent, going back to what you said, this is a game. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint.
Yeah, there's tournaments where I'll play for the day. Then you have to bag your chips. The casino takes them away. You go back to your hotel room or home or wherever you're at. You come back the next day. They give you your chips back and you resume play. And then you play all day and you do it again. You do it again. You do it again until you get knocked out. But yeah, it's a good time. But we got to wrap this up, dude. I just realized that. Look at that, an hour and 35 minutes. Doesn't seem that long, does it?
Yeah, no. Well, we've been talking about a lot of things.
I know
a lot of things. And your style is interesting because, you know, there are ways to weave in and out of different topics. And I very much enjoyed that, you know. I like arranging conversation. It's stimulating. It is.
Same. But your passion, dude, Jesus Christ. Again, I still got goosebumps. I love it, man. I love it. And I'll tell you about it after, but I want to give you the floor. Take the mic for a few minutes, do what you want.
Very good. You did such a good job kind of letting me work my way into it and talk about it, Walt, that I'm not going to really take up much time doing this, but I will hold up the book because, you know,
let me see that.
There es prayer.
Rocked and rolled. Nice. Is that you on the cover?
Oh, I don't want to reveal that secret. No, it's but the artwork, yeah, it is actually taken from a photo of me. But
no shit.
The artwork is my daughter. She kind of blended it and made it into a sort of melted it into the wall like radioactively.
See, I'm a big fan of that because that's where my logo is. My logo is like graffiti.
I like that.
And I just think that for somebody to paint, like in Jersey City where I work, they have a 15-story building, and on one side it's the head of David Bowie. And I'm like, who the fuck painted that? If I painted that, it'd look like a 5-year-old did it, because an eye would be this big, and then the eye would be this big over here, and the nose would be where the forehead's supposed to be.
Well, no, it's on a grid. I mean, they do it on a grid.
I know, but still.
Chuck Close, when he lost the ability to use his hand too well, he became paralyzed. He had to do faces that way, where he would turn every little part of the face into a box and had to like proportion everything. Yeah, I mean, it's look, it's like what you do, man. It's like everybody has a secret, develops the techniques to do the things that they want to do, and if they don't, they cease to do them. I mean, you have to do. You do. It's like this movie director once said, I heard him on the air. He said, "I either had to get better or I had to get out." You know, I mean, that's the way it is.
True. Yeah. Go back to the book, dude.
So let me just say, Rocked and Rolled. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. It's either in an ebook or in paperback. It's a comic historical novel set in the 1970s, early 80s New York new wave rock scene. It's gritty, it's graphic. You'll see it, you'll feel it. A lot of the things that this book is about, a lot of the neighborhoods, a lot of the sites, a lot of the lifestyles, gone forever. You'll never. It's historically accurate, but it is fiction. But you'll never see those things again. Those places have been gentrified to the point that you don't, like Houston Street, which is described in this book, is no longer derelict, open lot. It's got high-rise buildings with awnings on them. Everything is different. So this book takes you back then. It's about a guy who's desperately trying to make it in the music business, very competitive business. He, in the process of trying to make it, he meets a lot of crazy people like himself who are trying to reinvent themselves. What's the underlying message? Why do we do it? Why do people make music? Why do they create in the first place? It's so hard. Why does anybody do it? What's the point?
Yeah.
This book maybe has some answers, maybe just raises more questions. But anyway, that's me. That's about me. Again, I'm Eric J. Sonnenschein. This is Walt. He knows who he is. He doesn't need me to tell you. I'm Eric J. Sonnenschein. You can visit my author page. You can visit my book page. Rocked and Rolled. You can just Google it. You'll come right to me.
Awesome.
Walt, I'm grateful to have this time with you. It's been a great privilege to talk to you, to learn about you. You're a man of many, many parts. Many parts, many talents, many parts, many experiences, and obviously you've lived to talk about all of them. So that's a great thing.
No, I've really enjoyed it, dude, and all the links I'll have in the show notes, obviously. So people listening, they know my style, and the people that haven't listened yet, thanks for jumping in. But Eric, hang tight for a second. I'm going to shut the recording down, but hang tight, okay?
I can do that.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See, I told you Eric was a damn good time. Really enjoyed the episode. He's coming back. Jump in the show notes. You can get a hold of him. I bet you he would love to speak with you. And when you do, make sure you give him just a fucking hard time for me, will you? Good dude. He'll enjoy that. And, of course, check out his book. I am really loving it up until this point. All right, man, I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. But don't forget, High Speed Daddy, Live Rishi, my website. Check out the new logo, the new merch, and sign up for the damn newsletter. All right, man. Keep kicking ass, everybody. See ya.
You out there? You listening?